This is Bucket Talk, a weekly podcast for people who work in the trades and construction that aren't just trying to survive, but have the ambition and desire to thrive. The opportunity in the trades and construction is absolutely ridiculous right now. So if you're hungry, it's time to eat. We discuss what it takes to rise from the bottom to the top with people who are well on their way and roll up their sleeves every single day.
All right. This episode of Bucket Talk, we have a Chef Matt Groark, Groark Boys Barbecue. Matt, welcome.
Thanks, brother. Happy to be here.
I'm absolutely in awe. This is going to be a fun one. Not only do you have a very unique story, an awesome background, but you're doing some pretty cool things right now. But before we jump into that, I'd love to get, who you are, where you came from, and how Groark Boys Barbecue came to be and your passion for cooking. So kick it off, brother.
Yeah, man. God, it never gets old talking about it. It's a pretty cool story, and it helps me to kind of keep myself grounded and remind myself of how it all happened, because it's crazy. Every time I tell it, I'm like, it's pretty wild that I'm here telling the story. But yeah, grew up in South Jersey, where I'm right outside of Philadelphia. So I won't waste any time, teasing you too much. But yes, I'm an Eagles fan, and have been my whole life. And it's, the cool thing about it is it's really where the cooking and grilling and barbecue stuff really took off, was in the parking lot of Eagles games. So that's kind of where it really took its stride. But I've always been in the food industry. My first job, you and I were talking a few minutes ago, and you said, you washed dishes in a restaurant before. Funny, I giggled a little bit, because that was my first job, 15 going on 16.
It's where
My
you cut your teeth, man. It's
That's
not an easy job.
No, it's not. He was like, but you'll have soft hands, so it helps with the late, all that hot water, right?
Yeah.
So, my dad was like, "You're getting a job." My sister happened to be a waitress at that country club, um, and she got me a job in there washing dishes. So I did that for a little while, and yeah, I mean, I loved it. It started kind of my path in food. I did that for a few months washing dishes, and then before I knew it, it was a banquet hall, right? So there were a lot of different senior citizen type events on weekday afternoons.
Yep.
Or weekdays after school. I would go there, and there'd be some event going on, or the all state, all South Jersey, all conference banquets for kids, throughout South Jersey would be there for their luncheons or dinners or whatever, award dinners. So they were very busy, so I went pretty quick from washing dishes to kind of helping prep. He'd pull me from behind the dishwasher and be like, "Here, cut these carrots, do whatever, no guidance whatsoever, just here, do it." And I started doing that, and I enjoyed it. And then before I knew it, I was on the line, kind of helping the chefs set up plates and make salads and stuff like that. So did that for my first couple years, and eventually that turned into, when I got out of college, or was in college even, my job was, I was waiting tables. Is honestly the best money you could make as a kid. 18, 19, 20 years old, you're not going to find many jobs that you can walk out with just cash in your pocket. 150 bucks a night. Granted, I usually got spent right after the shift was over, but at least once I turned 21. But man, I waited tables, Jeremy, up until I was 30, 32.
Wow.
I started teaching when I was 25, and I always had that side hustle. I always had a side job, because as a teacher, you need it. Teaching salaries, even once I was married, it's hard to make ends meet with, two teaching salaries.
So I just want to cut you off real quick, because something that did resonate with me was how quickly you can transition from a dishwasher to a prep cook to, you know, a line cook, then to a sous chef. And I saw it happen, especially with me. I mean, I was barely old enough to work. Even if I was old enough to work at the time, it was a family restaurant. And, you know, as you're prepping for the rush, you kind of had a lull as a dishwasher, so that, you know, you're out there with the mandolin doing
Yeah.
potato fries and stuff like that. And it was like, you know, if you got proficient at it, you could start like getting right into culinary with with zero background, no culinary school, no nothing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and that's kind of what I like to bring up, key in on some of these points when people are like, how do I get in? How do I become a chef? Or how do I do this? And really, it's just get in bottom level, prove yourself, and then I mean it'll work out from there. But
Yeah.
continue.
It really is. And what's wild is going back to that dishwashing job and that chef I worked with at that country club. I started to gain some interest in wanting to go to culinary school. I mean, I was 16, 17, you know, 18 when I was working there, uh, thinking about what to do for college. And I thought about culinary school after high school. And I actually spoke to the chef about it. And he discouraged me, like, as crazy as that sounds, discouraging people to go into the the profession that you're in, you know?
I
Uh,
I don't disagree with them. I mean,
well, I'll tell you what, I relate to it even from a, a culinary standpoint. I guess professions change over time,
yep,
right? And one, I'm in one now as a teacher that's probably changed more than only a few other professions over the course of the last 10 years.
right,
Don't know that I can really be in a place to encourage college kids or young high school kids to go to be a teacher.
wow,
It's like I'm sure there's a lot of police officers that might not be encouraging kids to go be a police officer, you know?
yep,
I feel like my profession, as well as being a police officer, a first responder, so I have them in my family, it's almost something that you really don't ask for advice for very often. You're kind of meant to do it, you
yeah,
know? If you grow up wanting to be a cop, you're going to be a cop,
yeah,
you know? And I feel that way about teaching too. So, but yeah, he had told me, he actually said, the chef said, look, if you want to grow up and you want to get married and have a family and have kids and spend that time with them, and you might want to rethink the whole chef thing, because if you grow up to be a chef, if you have your own place or you're working for someone, you're going to be cooking on holidays for other families, not spending those holidays with your family.
fair point.
And that, and as a pretty young kid, 17, 18, that kind of resonated with me. And I was like, all right, guess I'm not going to be a chef. Like, because I kind of knew I wanted a family. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how that all went. And it just turned into waiting tables. And I was never on the other side of the line. I was always waiting tables. But I was still always around food. And
Yep,
that's where it started, that passion, that love for food. Even if your passion is just eating good food, it could transition into so much more, especially nowadays. And but that's all it was, just waiting tables for a lot of years. And then fast forward till 2003 roughly. um uh, we got season tickets for the Eagles, my dad and my brothers and I. And man, we were up every Sunday. I was up at least every Sunday at like 5 a.m., packing the cooler, getting all the food set up. My brother handled the beer, my dad handled some snacks,
yep,
but I kind of took the role of, all right, I got the menu. I'll get the food, I'll do the grilling, I'll do the cooking, and really just took over from there. And I'd say that's where the start of the grilling kind of barbecue journey started, was way back, 2003. Tailgating at Eagles games, and I still do. And then that transitioned into kind of picking up more barbecue smoking meat at my house. My father-in-law, uh, one day back in, we're probably going back to 2016, roughly. He brought home a little small electric smoker, and he had never used it. He had it for like 6 months. It was still in the box, and he dropped it off at my house.
interesting.
and was like, I think we had like dog sat for them or something for a weekend. And as a as a payment, he dropped his smoker off in my kitchen. And he knew I tailgate and like I had a
Yeah.
lot of, I enjoyed that, but I had never really smoked meat. So he dropped that off, and I'm telling you, Jeremy, the next morning, I think I went out to like Sam's Club that night and bought every single protein I could think of. And I was on YouTube. I
Oh
was
yeah.
looking at videos. I was you know it. Everybody listening to this knows it. You want to figure something out, you go on
Yep.
YouTube and you start, and that's what I did. And I had chicken and pork and turkey, and I think I bought a fish. I'm like, oh, you smoke fish, and I'm like, the next morning I was up. I freaking popped out of bed, and I'm not a morning person. I popped out of bed, and I just had this energy to like go fire up that smoker and figure it out. And I threw all this food on, and I think I probably ruined the majority of it, but there was something that got me about sitting out there at 6 in the morning, making a fire, trying to control it, sipping on my coffee, that just hooked me like big time.
Dude, you are a man after like everything that I wanted to do. I loved grilling, but grilling was too short. It was too
Yeah,
short of a time. I did
yeah,
not have that intimate, like you could barely finish a beer by the time you were done
yeah,
grilling, right?
yeah,
So I had found same thing, a Kamado smoker
yeah,
on the side of the road. Somebody used it as a charcoal. All I did was buy the plate for the bottom,
yeah,
diffuser plate, and
yeah.
same thing. My first brisket was garbage.
Oh,
Absolute garbage.
it's fun, man, but it's fun to look back on that.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, God, Jeremy, there were times that I think so to keep going, that's how it started.
Yeah.
And from that day on, I was messing shit up. I was making some good stuff. I would mess something up and make something really good. And it was like a golf shot, right? It's like an 18 hole. It's like playing 18 holes of golf. Like, I'm not a golfer. My dad and my brother are, but I'll go with them because I love to drink, and I'll drive the cooler and hang out. Beautiful weather. I'll hit one or two good balls, and it'll bring me back the next time.
Yep.
And that's what barbecue was like for me. I'll I'll do a cook, and I would, even if it wasn't great, say I make a brisket, even if it wasn't great, there would be certain things about it that I knew were moving me in the right direction
Yep.
to get it the right way, and that's what would bring me back the next time. I never completely, well, can't say never. I have completely demolished briskets before, but there was always some improvement throughout the process of learning how to cook a good brisket or a good pork butt or some good chicken or whatever it is. And that's how it was. It was like that process. And then before you know it, my neighbors are hearing, oh, you've been doing a lot of barbecue, you've been smoking stuff, you've been, hey, well, I got a kid's birthday, my kid's birthday party's coming up, you think you can make me some pulled pork. And before you know it, I'm cooking for my neighbors and making pulled pork and stuff for their birthday parties. And then they're handing me money, and I'm like, oh wait, okay, I guess just give me $50 because that's what it cost me to make everything.
Right.
I wasn't trying to make money off my neighbors or anything, but then it kind of just kept steamrolling from there, man. It was like a snowball effect, it just kept going, and I kept cooking. And being a teacher, I have kind of a community around me where word spreads pretty quick. And with what social media can do, that's kind of what blew it all up for me was social media. And even before, long before, the millions of followers came along. But um, through school. My wife was a teacher at the time as well, and we're going back to like 2017.
Right.
So I'd had this smoker for about a year. Um, was playing with it for a solid 3-4 months. My wife, who's vegetarian, was and always is my biggest supporter. And I think she really, for her to notice that I was really starting to enjoy this,
Yeah.
um, she knew that, I think before I even did, that it could be something. And she, for my 40th birthday, I'm 45 now, so this was 5 years ago. For my 40th birthday, she sent me to a barbecue class for the weekend in uh, Unadilla, Georgia. which is the hometown of Myron Mixon,
Okay.
who is the king of barbecue,
Yep.
the most winningest man in barbecue. So I spent a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at his complex with like 50 other like-minded people, just smoking meat and learning and taking it all in, and even more so gaining this like friggin' just love of doing it and figuring out in your head how you can make this a career, or even just a side hustle. That's what it was for me. So, I mean, it's kind of what it still is, but teaching is like my side hustle now.
Let me stop you there with the teaching. So just to clear
Yeah.
the record, you're a health and phys ed teacher, correct?
Yep.
So
Health and physical.
not not a culinary teacher,
Nope.
none of that.
No.
Does the school that you teach at, do they still offer culinary program?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they have culinary. They have culinary basic culinary. Then they have like an advanced culinary class for kids that may want to, follow through.
How many
Uh,
times have you substitute taught in that
so I've
class?
done a couple things with them. They've reached out a couple times for me to do like little demo type things with stuff they do. So last year, I did like a turkey demo.
Yep.
They Thanksgiving meal, and I came in and kind of did a demo. Sorry about the dogs.
No, you're good. You're good.
Did a demo on the turkey
Yep.
and how to prep the turkey, and I rub mine down in mayo, and give them just little tips and tricks with that. So it's been cool, and it's cool because school is really where the explosion of everything started. My wife and I, at the time, 2016. My son is my boys are 7 and 8 years old right now. Back in 2017, we were still trying for a third. We have two boys now. We did want three. Just wasn't in the cards. But at the time, we had gotten to like the end of the road and had to do in vitro.
Yep.
We're given the option to do in vitro, not because we couldn't get pregnant, but because we were having trouble holding the pregnancies. So we had lost 3 pregnancies prior to my oldest, Adric,
Yep.
and then we had Nash also right after Adric. Adric was born with a cleft lip and palate,
Yep.
so that was nerve wracking and stressful in and of itself. Regardless of the fact that we had lost 3 prior, so it's like, all right, what's wrong? Is anything going to happen? Are we going to lose them? This and that, but we blessed to have both of them, and they're both great now and healthy, and everything's awesome. And then we lost another right after Nash, and then that's when we went into the in vitro. We did 2 rounds of in vitro. The second round was successful, and Kristen was pregnant, and we were rocking and rolling. We got through the first trimester. And then at about 16, 17 weeks, we went to the ultrasound, no heartbeat. So we lost that. It was our 5th loss out of 7 pregnancies. So being in school, being a health teacher, we talk about pregnancy and abstinence and childbirth and all that stuff. So um, for me, I missed about a week of school. Kristen was out, obviously, but when I went back to school, my kids all knew that we were pregnant, knew that Kristen was pregnant, knew that we were expecting a third child. It was a boy. It was a third boy. We don't make girls in my family, apparently. So, but my boys, Adric and Nash, had both gone to preschool, actually daycare at my high school.
Yep.
They have a daycare program. So all my students have met my kids. Like, so they all knew that we were expecting a third. They're like, oh, what's his name going to be? Is he
Yeah.
going to come here? We going to get to meet him, this and that. So it was all kind of rocking and rolling, right? And they knew when I came back to school and I was gone for a week, they knew it wasn't good.
Yeah.
So how do I address that with a bunch of, 16-year-old kids? And the best way I could think was just to sit down and make it a teachable moment, right? Like, that's what I do. I'm a teacher. Let's talk to them and, pull something out of this. And I told him what happened. I told him what the process was and why we think we lost the pregnancy, and um, how there's really nothing I can control about it other than what I do now. And to pick your head up, and having them there for me is huge. Having my job is a huge part of the ability to grieve. And the kids, high school kids, make you laugh every day, so to some form or another, so that's always a positive. And a couple days went by, and my one class came in with a card, and they gave me the card, and I opened it, and little did I know that one of them was recording my reaction to opening the card. And at the time, I wasn't like, I didn't have TikTok, wasn't
Yeah.
even TikTok didn't even exist. Snapchat, all that stuff was just kids. All I was doing was posting food on Instagram, just
Yeah.
pictures, because it wasn't even video at that point. So I opened the card, and they all signed it, and they said, thanks for teaching us to keep your head up and get up after you get knocked down and all that kind of stuff, right? And they had Sixers tickets in there, and they said they know I'm a Philly fan, and they said go to the game. We hope you enjoy it. Take your wife. Hopefully you can take your mind off things, and we love you. Blah blah blah. And my first thought was, yeah, obviously I was like crying, and I'm like, you fucking kids, man. The one girl asked me if she could post the video on Twitter, and she did, and it kind of went viral. Got tens of thousands of interactions and comments, and um, so at the time, is all I could think to do as a teacher was to reward my kids somehow, like reward them for that little act of kindness, right? And so I posted the story on Facebook real quick, just said what my students had done. I posted on Twitter, and it kind of blew up on there too. And then I reached out to a contact that I had with the Sixers, and I told them the story, and I said I wanted to turn it into a field trip, and I wanted to see if I could bring my whole class with me to the game, so my wife could meet my kids, and my students could meet my wife, and just all that. So we did, and the Sixers hooked us up with like 30 tickets, a suite. All the major news stations picked up the story of
Wow.
what my students did. Uh, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. And then next thing I know, I'm on Instagram, and I get a message from somebody telling me it was on in LA. Like, yo, bro, I think I just saw you on like Fox News in Los Angeles. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, your students, your high school kids did something for you. And I'm like, okay, now it's going national. So then I have a meat company reach out to me called Premier Meats in California, and he told me he wanted to help me out, help do something for the kids to say thank you for what they did for me. And he was like, you want to do a barbecue for them? Like, well, I can't do a barbecue for 25 kids. Like, my school would kill me. The rest of the kids in the school would kill me. Um, so we turned it into a big school-wide fundraiser at our home opening football game in September of 2018. Um, and we sold pulled pork sandwiches with chips and a bottle of water for $10. Everything went to charity because 100% was all covered by donations and other small businesses and companies helping out to chip in. Premier Meats gave me all the money to buy all the meat. I blew it up on social media, and we raised like 4 grand over the course of the game. And in order to do that fundraiser, I wanted to be a business. I wanted it to be legit, like food safety, food handling. And at the time, I was thinking about doing this part time thing of like selling some barbecue.
Right.
So, Groark Boys Barbecue was the name we came up with. I went and turned it into an LLC. I did all the paperwork, and went and got my food handler's license, and all that. And that was the start. Our first event, Work Boys' first event, was because of those kids I taught, and we made it a fundraiser and raised some money for cleft lip and cleft palate for MS, because my stepmom has MS, and for for my superintendent, he lost at the time. He lost his daughter to epilepsy complications, and we donated money to that as well. So
I'm
that was
glad.
Gro-
I'm
that was Groark's first event ever, and it was a fundraiser, and it's been the lifeline of my brand and business since I started in 2018. So
That's
that'll
amazing. And
be the goal.
I'm glad you brought up that first part. I mean, that absolutely resonated with me. Myself and my wife were trying to get pregnant early on, and we had a failed pregnancy as well. And it was devastating, absolutely devastating, because it was our, everything was on track, everything. Like, not to derail this podcast and take it in a different direction,
Yeah.
but I feel like this is definitely the time to explain how common it is. And I didn't realize how common it was until after I went through it. And people were absolutely sympathetic and whatever, but then people started coming out of the woodwork. Oh, I had two, I had three, and I'm like, so, and it's hard as a family to get back into the mental state to be able to have children again, or to start trying again. And it took us over a year um for a pregnancy to take after that, because I mean, we're
Yeah.
just so devastated.
Yep.
And what was interesting was is having those stories, being able to relate, and being able to talk with other people about it. But prior to that, all those prenatal classes, all the, whatever, everything was like happy, like when we have the child, when we do this. And it's like, well, there's this other side that
Yeah.
nobody talks about, but a
Nope.
lot of people have gone through it. So it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, again, it was awful, but that's awesome that you're in a position, health and phys ed, to be able to explain it. And I guess if it does happen to others, there's a little bit of consolation that, there's not really something wrong with you per se. And that,
Just not alone,
yeah,
right? I mean, I think that's, for you even sharing that, thank you. And I think it's, we do spend a lot of time and energy taking care of our wives when this happens. Like, I didn't even think about me. I had no thoughts of myself at all, because everything she went through was just, I mean, I don't know, it's like hands down the strongest person I've ever met in my life. And, to go through everything she has, but people don't talk about it. And I think, I do. It's just my personality, the way it helps me to talk about stuff. It just does. I know not everyone is that way, but once you do, even if you give someone a little, you just give them an olive branch, it's like it all comes pouring out. Like, oh my God,
100%.
there's more people that do it. It's like I'm gonna go buy a Jeep Wrangler, and because I never see any Jeep Wranglers on the road, and then you go buy it, and now everyone has a Jeep Wrangler because
Correct.
you're recognizing them now,
Yeah.
and you just didn't before. And that's what it's like. Once you go through it, you start talking about it, you realize how many people actually go through it, and it's a huge part of our story,
Yeah.
you know. And it had a lot to do with where we are now, as a family and everything we've gone through, and to be able to persevere through it and help people through it. You're part of a grief group that we go to still, years later. Every year we go to an event and meet other families, and it's like it's a very tight knit group that you never wanted to be part of. It's like every time we go, every year when we go, we see new faces and we're like devastated.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see you there.
Yeah.
But you're welcoming them with open arms, and you're hopefully a shoulder to cry on at some point, and they can relate to you. So, but yeah, back to the barbecue.
There
Let's
we
go.
go. No, I've never been able to really talk about it on a larger platform. I've always done
Yeah,
it with my tight knit community, and it just
yeah,
felt right. And I think that that's
real stuff.
hell yeah. I mean, wherever this podcast takes us, I guess, right?
Look, but that's all. That's what I always do. Like, food and barbecue gives me an ability to connect with people in a way that most that you just don't. Food, and to be able to have a business where I know I can give back and I can make a difference and I can help out families, and stuff like that. Anytime something local happens, or if a family needs something, what's the best thing you can do? Give them dinner, so they don't have to worry about food. Like, to be able to just go in my backyard and cook some stuff up and deliver it to a house and say, here, you're good for a few days,
Yeah. That's the
like
first thing that shows up.
that's it, man. So, but yeah, that was the start of it, being able to kind of give back and create this fundraiser was the start of it. And that's what started Groark Boys Barbecue. And that story kind of went viral. And then here comes 2018 and TikTok comes around, and I start posting silly videos. I was on Instagram for a while, posting on there and stuff, and still I was part of that barbecue community on Instagram, which is insanely supportive and awesome and huge. And one of my friends on there had reached out to me about this opportunity on this new app. At the time, it was called Musically, and then it was bought by Musically and or was bought by ByteDance, which is the company that owns TikTok. But they called it something else. There was another name before it was TikTok, but same concept, right? Short video platform,
Right.
and they were going to pay me $600 a month to post 30 videos a month. So one video a day for $600 a month. To me, I was like, they're going to give me $600 a month just to post a video
Done
every
deal.
day. I'm like, that's awesome. Let's do it. Like, I'm making mac and cheese for the kids, and I turn it into a video.
Yeah.
I'm like, craft mac and cheese for the kids. Like, okay, there's my video for the day. And I got to be part of that program along with a few other people that I know on social, and that's how it started. I was just kind of posting on there, and if you scroll all the way down my TikTok for a while, it'll go all the way back to December of 2018, and you'll see those very first videos that I got paid for, way back when the app was just starting to grow.
Yeah.
And I caught a lot of shit from other people in the community, thinking that at the time when it finally did switch over to TikTok as the name, it was known as a little teeny bopper app, where kids are dancing and all that stuff. So here I am, a 40-year-old teacher on this little TikTok app, and people are like, "What are you, a friggin' creep? Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, why are you posting videos on there?" I'm like, "It's food. I'm just posting food videos." And I took all that criticism and I ignored it, and I kept doing it along with a few other people that kept grinding through it. Some dropped off, and kind of listened to all the outside noise and stopped doing it, regrettably, probably now.
Probably.
Um, but here I am, 3.5 million followers later on TikTok, uh,
Wild.
just just grinding out videos, and it's helping my business tremendously. Uh, Brand deals, working with some of the largest companies in the food business. And I mean, Weber Grills, Kingsford Charcoal, all that kind of stuff. And, starting to do some of my own stuff, have my own seasoning company, working on, a couple other little projects that, hopefully be able to reveal, a little bit down the road. But yeah, it's just been a wild ride.
So for me, one of the one of the natural gravitation towards you and your content is a the family behind it, but b um myself and my kids. So my kids are 6 and 8. My 8-year
Yeah.
old daughter um has taken an absolute liking to camp cooking, barbecuing, stuff like that, and it's given us an outlet to be able to work together. We go to the grocery store, we pick some stuff out, we do all this stuff. Um, so much so that we did a weekend last weekend, or actually 2 weekends ago. It was awesome. It was our first time. Went to the Army Navy store, bought like the little mess kits and everything, and went up to the lake and cooked over the fire for like 2 days straight. And it was, I
Uh,
mean, it was kielbasa
yeah,
and
tell some.
and eggs and stuff like that, but like, just boiling the water and making tea and then cleaning all the dishes like there versus like in a dishwasher.
Yeah,
um has been unreal, and I feel like it gives them another level up on like, hey, I can do things, like things aren't so automated for me. Like I could cook, I can make something, I could then clean it up, and then
Yep.
I could tend a fire. There was just so much to it, and it's been amazing. But yeah, continue doing what you're doing. It's touching millions, obviously.
Well, the camping thing was really just new over the last couple years, you know.
So good.
Yeah, I don't even know. My wife had said something. We have a couple friends that had campers, and um, we just started looking into it. It was like such an impulse buy. It was, oh God, it was crazy. But she started talking about it, and we started kind of looking it up, and you start to realize that while a camper or RV might be one of the worst investments you could ever make, because you're never getting, your money's worth for it, in terms of monetarily.
Yeah.
I kind of like don't care about that, because the value in memories and experience and all that you grow with your family is just like immeasurable. Like, you cannot put any price on that. So I'll take the few $100 a month it costs for the payment, and I'll accept the fact that I'm never going to be able to sell it without losing some money, when we do. But it's so worth it. And it's opened up, like you said, a whole nother line of connection with your kids, with your wife, with your community. Like, some of the brands that I work with, they love it.
Yeah.
It's a whole different vibe in the video content, and it opens things up for me to be able to create a little bit differently. So yeah, it's something that I'll keep doing. And I have some collabs coming up hopefully this summer when I'm done school, where I can get out over an open fire and do a little bit more cooking, in that way.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because one can say, um, I guess I'll just put myself in my kid's shoes. So growing up ADHD, growing up all this stuff, right? And I see myself in kids, in my kids, and obviously I'm not going to put a label on it at this point because I don't want to. Um, but what was interesting is watching my very energetic children become so focused on a task and do it to perfection and listen and understand. I mean, so much so that my daughter burnt her finger, right? Just like got so excited, grabbed the skillet instead of grabbing
Yeah.
the pot holder to grab the skillet. She burnt her finger, and obviously, for everybody out there, all the first aid tips were done. She's fine. She's recovering. It was a little blister, but it was a
Uh,
teachable moment, and it's amazing because like I turned to her and I said, "Do I need to say anything?" And she goes, "I won't do that again." And I'm like, and and it was, obviously it's safe and a great environment to work in, but she's 8 years old and she's using knives. She's using, we're splitting wood with axes. We're doing all this stuff, obviously in a controlled environment, but giving her real world adult tasks to, and now they're super focused and and man, it was like the best couple of nights of sleep that they've ever had. They went to bed on time. You know what I mean? I was like, there's
because
something to this, go live
because
out in
they,
the bush.
yep.
So, but fast forward, man. I mean, you got some big stuff going on. Obviously it took off from like a little side hustle to something more extravagant. And I'd love for you to dive deep into that.
Yeah, so teaching, once I started the business, it was, things were growing, in terms of social media and stuff, pretty steadily.
Yep.
Nothing crazy, but I mean, I can remember in school the first time a kid came up to me and saw me on TikTok, saw one of my videos, and was like, "Whoa, Groark, you have 75,000 followers on TikTok? Like, you're
You
famous." Like, 75,000. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Like, people like barbecue."
yeah.
That was always my answer. And, so kids started talking pretty early on that I was even on TikTok,
Yep.
at that time. But it was teaching. I was coaching basketball. I coached basketball for like 18 years. High school, I was a driver's ed teacher. So I would teach kids how to drive, um, driving 6 hours for kids to get
So
their
you're the
license.
reason why Philly drivers suck.
Yeah, exactly. Jersey, actually. So,
Jersey.
yeah,
Sorry.
I was doing 6 hours behind the wheel lessons with kids,
Yeah.
risking my life. So teaching basketball, driver's ed. I was hustling barbecue a little bit here and there. I was posting on social media every day, photo content, like doing all that stuff. And then it started to really explode. And that's when COVID hit. When COVID hit, 2019, 2020, and we were home, so much. That's when it was every day posting, and it wasn't just quick videos. It was like teaching stuff. It was like tutorials. It was like, this is how you do it. And I think that's what really made the big jump, and not only that, but I was doing it at my house, nobody special. I'm a dad, teacher. I'm in my backyard. My dogs are barking. My kids are crying. And I'm trying to make a steak and film it. So, like you said, I think part of that connection and part of my following really came from the fact that, I wasn't trying to pretty up my videos. I wasn't, you go on TikTok and every platform now, and you see these creators, these
Yeah.
food creators that just have these beautiful videos, highly edited, highly produced, beautifully filmed from every angle possible, right? Like different shots, ASMR, obviously have $1,000 microphones.
Yeah.
But I got in long before all that. That didn't exist, that type of content, when I was growing. And I'm fortunate for that, because that is not me. Like, that content is not me. I don't live in that world of these creators like, Nick DiGiovanni and some of these other big food creators. But mine was very real. I was in my house, and here's my wife. She's vegetarian.
Yeah.
She's not going to eat any of this. And people thought that was funny. That I'm the meat guy and I married a vegetarian. So then I kind of caught on to that people thought that was funny. So I started using it in my content and like kind of making fun of her whenever I could, or pretending to feed her meat. Like, oh, I'm going to sneak some meat in her food. And I did a whole series of videos like where I pretend to trick her into eating meat. And that blew up, and people still think it's true. They think I would actually still be married if I did that. Uh, it just shows you that most of the people watching my videos are probably like 14 years old and have
Yeah.
no clue. But yeah, it really exploded. And that's, once I got over 1 million on TikTok, everything else kind of grew along with it. Started getting reached out to by companies to make content and videos, for ad campaigns and things like that. Ended up getting myself an agent, because I never wanted to talk about money or deal with contracts and stuff, nor am I, capable of doing all that without, with making sure I'm protecting myself.
Yeah.
So, I have an agent, which is insane to even say. And then
That is that in itself is a little nuts. I mean, for
social media agent, and yeah, and I'm still teaching, and things are doing great. The barbecue and the social media has now kind of taken over the full-time role, and as far as the money it brings in for our family, and my teaching job is kind of like my side gig. But I need, I just can't commit the time that I need uh to the barbecue and the social media stuff because of my full-time teaching job. So at some point something's going to give. I don't know when that's going to be, but I've been able to work on a lot of things in the meantime. So I have my own rub company, Rub City, with two good buddies of mine that I partnered up with, and it's doing incredibly well. We're working on another big project that we're hoping to launch in July this summer. It's going to be called Embers,
Okay.
so I'll in on that. But there's going to be more content based stuff on that, where, think of a master's class type of situation, but for grilling and barbecue and, smoking meat. So we have some awesome people involved with that. So hopefully that's coming this summer. Um, I was on a show with Gordon Ramsay. I mean, that was a pretty big deal.
My we were just feeding the horses, and
Yeah.
I said, Dad, this is who I'm having a podcast with tonight. He goes, no way. He goes, my parents, it's food shows and America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. They love it, and they're like, this guy's unbelievable. I'm like, yep, Dad.
So what's crazy is that whole process. Like I've been reached out to by casting agents probably a dozen times.
Yeah.
Past like 2 years maybe, and Netflix, a Netflix show. Netflix has a couple barbecue cooking shows. I've been reached out to a couple times about that. I've been reached out to other shows, and every time my first question is always like, when is filming?
Yeah.
And filming is always during my school year. So I can't just not be in school for a month, feel like I'd get fired. So I never really gave it much consideration, until last spring when I was reached out to by the casting agency for Gordon Ramsay's Next Level Chef. So the first season I watched, because a buddy of mine who also does barbecue and content, and he's pretty big. His name's Gary, the barbecue chef. He was on season 1 of Next Level Chef, so I
Yep.
watched it for him. And then now last spring, here I am, being casted by them and going through the whole interview process. So um, I questioned it. I was like, I knew they were filming in September. So I was like, I can't do it. Like, I came home and I told Kristen, and I'm like, I don't think I can do it. Like, they're filming September. That's the beginning of the school year. Like, I can't just miss the first month of school. And, Gordon Ramsay is what she said to me.
Yeah.
She was like, this isn't Netflix. This isn't, some Chopped, on Food Network where you're going to be on one episode.
Yep.
This is Gordon Ramsay, like the celebrity of all food celebrities. Like,
And he's so much nicer now. He's so much nicer than he was before.
It's such a different vibe on Next Level Chef too, because it's a mentor
Yeah.
type of show. So I mean, he tells you if it sucks. Like, I think they didn't put it in, but the episode that I got eliminated, I can talk about it now because it's over and I got eliminated. But the episode that I got eliminated when I made I made the fish and mashed potatoes and some broccoli. He told me in the judging, he said that it looked like it was plated by a 12-year-old. and they didn't put it in the show.
Really?
I'm like, why did they edit that out? It was such a genius, because the whole season, every episode I was in, even if my food was good, which the majority of the time it was, except for Chinese and the episode I was eliminated, my issue was plating. And I always told the judges, I said, look, I cook barbecue. I don't plate like French food.
Yeah.
I hand my friends like cutting boards with meat.
Yeah.
Like, my wife laughs at me because she's like, if you come over here to eat, you're not getting utensils. Like, you're grabbing ribs off a cutting board.
Yeah,
You're eating steak your fingers.
I watched
Like,
the one with you with the port wine, and then realized you didn't grab a starch, and then
uh,
you had the plantains. But
no potatoes. I
dude,
I
but
was all excited, and then
it's so stressful because it's like, I don't know.
bro,
Go ahead.
I'm telling you, 30 seconds is 30 seconds. 45 minutes, 45 minutes. Like everybody's like, they probably give you more time. Nope. No. It is as stressful as it looks and chaotic. But Kristen looked at me and she said, "You have to do this."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "But I'm not a chef. Like I just cook meat. Like I just cook meat." And she goes, and here's like the genius of the wife, right? She goes, "Yeah. And any food show you watch, what do people mess up the most? They mess up either the meat, it's either raw or it's overcooked, and they mess up like seasoning, more salt, more this, more that." She goes, your strength is those two things. You're very good at seasoning your food, and you're very good at cooking your proteins to the right temperature." And I was like, "Oh shit, you're kind of right. Like I'm really good at those two things."
But I
I'm like,
suck at plating.
but I don't know like French sauces and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, like a port wine. What the frick do I do with a port wine? Like I
Drink
figured
it
it,
and then
but
make your food.
yeah, yeah. So I actually, leading up to heading out to film, a couple weeks before I left to film, I had a good buddy of mine come over and stay for the weekend. His name's Noah Sims, and he was on Master Chef
Okay.
season 10. So Noah's like 6'7", wears overalls, grew up in Georgia. He was on the season with Nick DiGiovanni, who is probably the largest food creator in the world right now.
Hmm.
Uh, and I'm friends with both of them. But Noah came over and spent the weekend, and he showed me all the mother sauces. He showed me some little tricks. We went over, how to use a knife properly, which I knew, but I mean, I hacked the shit out of most of my food, because it's meat. So
Yeah.
he like showed me how to, frise some, herbs and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah. So it was cool, but I'm telling you, Jeremy, I did really well. Episode 1, I won best dish for my team, and by the time we were at episode 3, I was like, how am I still here? I'm playing with house money. I'm like, best. It's amazing. So, it was wild, but if anything, it was just one of those lessons like you got to believe in yourself a little bit every once in a while. And sometimes you just got to take a chance. And if you're not taking chances and you're not risking things, then you're probably not growing.
Yeah.
Uh, and my goal through all this is just to continue to grow. And that doesn't just mean numbers on social media, right? Like I want to grow a brand. I want to grow a media company. I want to grow, you know, more relationships and stuff like this, because that's the stuff that really matters. We all know, because we've heard it, that TikTok could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Facebook could be gone tomorrow. Like they're all so, you got to build something bigger than just a number,
Well, it
So
seems like, and as I've gone through the trades, as I've gone through college, as I've gone through everything, it's really, and actually to college, I mean, I learned a lot in college. I went later on in life, in my 30s, and that's when I actually grasped a lot of the concepts and really took home a lot of the stuff more so than I would have ever in my teens. Um, but one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was network, right? So I had a group of people that I went through college with, um, 20 or 16 of them, 16 people that I went through college with that I could call up, hey, what do you think about this or whatever? And I feel like that's the same. I mean, I talked to some of the knife makers that were Forged in Fire.
yeah,
And it the list goes on and on. But like, hey, how do I temper steel? Hey, how do I make this sauce? Hey, you know, how can I put a spin on this? And really, it's your network that you're building. That's more so outside the social media platforms. Yes, social platforms help you grow that network, but if they were to be gone, your buddy coming over and helping you learn about sauces and others helping you, learning about open fire or whatever the next technique may be, is really the key to success there.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, that's it. The relationships, the networking is hands down the biggest part. And, you know, having someone like Noah's taught me a few things, man, not just, prepping me for next level chef so that I didn't make a fool of myself. But the first time Noah reached out to me, um, he came across my page and he liked what he saw, and he was pretty early coming off of Next Level Chef, so he kind or not a Master Chef, so he kind of had that momentum from Master Chef, and I knew who he was because I watched it. And all of a sudden, I get a DM from Noah Sims, and I'm like, "Oh shit! Like that's a dude from Master Chef. What's he doing DMing me?" And you open your DMs, 99% of the time, someone writes something, right? Like, "Hey Jeremy, what's up? Just love your stuff. Just wanted to connect, stay in touch, blah 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 blah, that kind of thing."
Yeah.
Noah sends video messages to people. So if he likes you, or he sees something in you, or he likes your stuff or your content, or he just wants to tell you that you're friggin' killing it, and keep doing what you're doing, I'm proud of you. He doesn't do it through a text.
That's super personal.
He sends you a video, and now you're looking him in the face and he's saying, "Man, Jeremy, I just came across your page, and dude, I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. I'm here for you if you need anything. Let's connect. Can't wait to meet you." Like that. And then he would hang up. And I was like, I remember the first time when I got that first message, I was like, what? Like, he just sent me a video message saying he loved what I was doing, and like my food looks great and he can't wait to cook with me one day. I'm like, holy shit. But like, just that personal connection, that was such a huge lesson for me.
Yeah.
That I got from Noah, and I try to do it as much as I can.
Yeah. No, that's
I'll,
that.
I'll, I'll get DMs from people just randomly, right? Like asking, "Hey, I got a rack of ribs. I'm doing it on a Weber kettle. What do you think I should do? Any advice?" And most people's DMs start with, "Well, you'll probably never see this," because they think that I probably never read my DMs. So especially if they write something like that, like I'll get kids that'll write to me that are probably teenagers and 14, 15, 16, and they'll write me, and they're famous for saying, "You'll probably never see this,
Yeah.
but I've watched everything you do, and you've inspired me to cook and grill, and I really enjoy it, and it's helped my anxiety, and it's helped this and that. Just wanted to say thank you." And normally they don't think you're ever going to see it, because a 14-year-old kid is looking at someone with a following like me as a celebrity.
Yeah.
Like, you're a modern day celebrity, which is the weirdest thing. But, at the very least, I hope that kids are watching me and, being inspired in some way. So whenever I get a message like that from a kid, I'll send a video message back, just because I like to imagine when they open it, their reaction, like, holy shit. Because that was my reaction when, Noah sent me his first video message.
And it's funny, I don't want to downplay the accomplishment of having 3 million followers on TikTok. I think that's amazing. Um, but speaking to your point, I think it's the I've interviewed, we're on like season 6 now. I've interviewed, you know, tens of hundreds of people at this point, and every single one of them has been down to earth. They haven't been this up on this pedestal, um and I'm just a regular Joe. And it's funny because they've, after off camera, they're like, "Hey, anything you need, I'll help you out, like whatever you need done, like if we need to reshoot it or whatever." Everybody has been like, they're my neighbor. You know what I mean? Have just been unbelievable reachable people. And maybe I'm just picking it right, or maybe I'm seeing a trend here, is that that
You have
everybody's
a brand, brother.
for the most part, everybody's just normal, approachable people. And again, I say this over and over again. I go to Makers Camp which is like all the social media makers, and their followings vary, but like big ones, the little ones, to everything, and everybody's just there, and like titles aside, just normal people. It's like
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
the most photogenic people and awesome on camera are some of the shyest people you'll ever talk to. You're like, how come I can't have a conversation with you? Like, I expected to be able to have a conversation with. Anyway, long story short is that, like, if anybody, and that's gonna lead me into my last point here. But if anybody wants to reach out to you or talk to you, where can they find you?
So, if you go to my website, GroarkBoysBarbecue.com, there is a submission form there where you can contact me, and I have people sending me, catering jobs if there's something,
Yeah.
I get some grad parties to do in the spring, summer because I'm a teacher. So, any of those requests usually come through that website. And I have people just asking me general cooking questions on the website, or brands reaching out through my website, stuff like that. So that's a really good spot to do it. Um, Instagram, I'm on all the time, and my DMs are not completely flooded. I answer almost everything that I get
You
on
do.
Instagram.
You do.
Uh, I answer. So, it's Instagram has developed a pretty good process for weeding out the
Yeah.
um the trash, that you get. So, any of those messages that come in my box are, stuff that I know is worth a read. So, I'm good at getting through my DMs on there. So, but I'm on every platform. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm uh I'm on TikTok. I'm on Snapchat. I'm on uh what else? Am I missing any?
TikTok, Snap, Twitter,
I'm
Facebook.
on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I just started on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for years,
Yeah.
but because of Next Level Chef, we live tweet during the show and
Yeah.
stuff. And I still kind of am live tweeting during the show, even though I'm not on it because all my friends are on it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
We all got so tight, man. It was such a good group of people, and we're all so tight, and we're all still friends. But I'm posting some content on Twitter too, so stuff that you probably might not see on other platforms. Same with Snapchat. So yeah, I mean, you could reach me anywhere. Rubcity.com.
There you go.
Is an insane spice company. Uh, I have a couple of my own branded rubs that I curated with my partners, a beef rub and a pork rub, and then we have about 7 others that are really awesome. So if anyone wants to support, that's always a good way to do it, and you could pop them in your own video content. But yeah, I've a lot of cool things coming up, and like I mentioned, this Embers is going to be something really cool this summer, and I'm excited. And the biggest thing for me with it and my partners is the communication, the connection that Embers is going to bring. Outside of just your normal social media stuff,
Sweet.
uh, there's going to be a way to really connect with some of your favorite barbecue food grilling people through what we're building. So it's going to be really neat.
Hell yeah. Well, I thank you for being on the show. We covered a gamut of topics, and
We could probably go on for another hour.
but obviously you guys can reach out to him, anything culinary, anything teaching, and then any of the other topics that we hit. But really, it was just to bring light to the fact that culinary is another avenue for any of you blue collar workers or anybody who wants to work with your hands. It's definitely a great avenue and very lucrative, and you're seeing one of the top performers in the trade. And it was awesome to have you on the show, Matt.
I appreciate it, Jeremy. Listen, if anybody listens to this and they're in the South Jersey area and they want to sling some barbecue, I might need to man my barbecue rig because I just don't have time for it. So I might be hiring people.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, thanks for being on the show.
You got it, brother. Take care. We'll talk soon.
And as a special thanks to our loyal listeners, we're giving $10 off your next purchase of $60 or more at BRUNTWorkwear.com. Use discount code BucketTalk10. That's BucketTalk10